Thank you for having me and for everyone for coming tonight. I've been invited to speak on what it is like to live with thalassaemia major. On the surface, us Thal and sickle cell patients look very normal. People are very surprised when I tell them I require blood transfusions every 3 weeks for my whole life to stay healthy and essentially stay alive. I was diagnosed with thalassaemia major at 6 months old and had my first blood transfusion soon after, so going into hospitals and having needles has always been a normal part of life. As you know, Thal is hereditary and can only be passed down through genetics. I'm the only one in my family to be diagnosed with thalassaemia major. My grandfathers and parents are carriers of the gene and have thalassaemia minor, which means they are susceptible to anemia. On the other hand, my younger sister Antonia is not a carrier at all. There are about 150 patients like me in Melbourne who are treated at Monash Medical Centre in our own ward. I go in for transfusions every 3 weeks and receive 3 bags of red blood cells. 1 unit of blood is approximately 300 ml, which means I receive almost a litre of blood during treatment. Treatment on average takes about 6 hours, as each bag of blood takes about an hour and a half to infuse. We've got a little monitor that makes sure it all runs at the same pace. During transfusions, I tend to sleep, read, or watch TV. Often before transfusion, symptoms of Thal tend to kick in and I become fatigued as my hemoglobin is low, so transfusion day is an instant recharge to the system. Within a week before every transfusion, I have to take a blood test before to match my blood I'll be receiving for that week and measure my hemoglobin levels. On average, women should level between 12 and 14, and before a transfusion, mine will be about 9.5 to 11. In the days after a transfusion, I have really high energy levels. This might not be very impressive to many people, but let's say I can run 20 minutes on the treadmill straight the next day without being fatigued or without getting puffed out. But in comparison, the days before a transfusion, I'll hardly be able to run 10 minutes without feeling really, really puffed out, or climbing stairs will be really hard, or you sort of get short of breath. This has never stopped me from doing anything out of the ordinary. In high school, I played in an AFL footy team and did all the other physical activities that everyone else does, including overnight hikes and overseas travel. During high school, having Thal felt almost like a benefit, as I could choose which days off I wanted to have to go in for vampire duties. For the past 2 years, I've been in full-time work, so things have become more challenging to manage, and this happens to a lot of other patients. I have my transfusions on Saturdays, so I don't have to take time off work, and this is something really important to me, as I don't want my condition affecting my work life and social life as well. So this is something a lot of patients and myself struggle with, sort of maintaining a normal life. Being blood transfusion dependent has also meant I have to plan my travels carefully to ensure I have somewhere to get treatment. Luckily in Australia, we have a reciprocal healthcare agreement with many other countries, so we can get treatment easily under Medicare. Some of the countries in the arrangement are the UK, Ireland, Sweden, Holland, Belgium and Norway. In 2012, through uni, I went on exchange for 3 months to England and was transfused in a day ward through emailing a doctor. Treatment there was of really high standards and similar to ours in Melbourne. In Melbourne, another thing about our day ward, we see the same people in there because there are 150 of us, so you sort of go in with the same people, and it's really nice to have that the same group and really knowing people when you go in. The one great thing about our Melbourne ward is we also have the same nurses, and if you flip to the next slide, we've had the same nurses for years, so in that top corner, that's me in 1998, and I still keep in touch with one of the nurses, which is really lovely, even though they're both retired now. Also, during my travels around Europe, I had a transfusion in Amsterdam, which was incredible. They have a high population of sickle cell patients, so they had a new transfusion ward. I got a recliner bed, free Wi-Fi, and my own personal TV, which almost felt like a holiday, as I'd been spending weeks before in bunk beds in hostels. I love Amsterdam in particular, as I revisited the hospital in 2015, as I kept in touch with the same nurse, so I could go back and easily get treatment. Another major part of treatment is taking medicine daily to remove the exocyane from my body, as Tian mentioned in the slides earlier. When I first began, at the time, I was taking that little needle, and our head nurse came over to my house when I was in primary school and taught me and my parents how to use it. So I would just inject myself every night, and would have to do that 6 nights a week. Many patients still use this method of iron chelation therapy because it works better for them, and there are different side effects for each medicine. So this is one that a lot of people still like using. Amazingly, in 2005, a new drug called Exjade was introduced, which is the dissolvable tablet that you drink daily with food, and it changed my life for me and many other patients. So that's been incredible. Without iron chelation treatment, as you know, iron can build up on the major organs such as the heart and liver. If iron settles in these areas, it will shut down function and cause problems and organ failure, which is why consistent treatment is of the utmost importance. Other side effects from Thal and sickle cell include developing such conditions as osteoporosis and diabetes. One reason for the osteoporosis is when you get rid of the iron from your body, it'll also take other minerals, so a lot of that gets taken out of your bones. So that happens to the majority of patients. This is why we are monitored really closely and undergo annual tests such as audiology appointments, MRIs, ultrasounds, and bone scans to make sure treatment is running smoothly. Although many of the appointments are a real hassle, I get to see my body examined inside and out, which is pretty cool, seeing a skeleton during a body composition scan, and it's something most people wouldn't get to do under healthy circumstances. In 2008, when I was 16, in this photo here, I went to the International Thalassaemia Conference, or the TIFF conference, and I was taken by current committee members at the time, and our next speaker, Theodore, his mum took me at the time. And these conferences are held every 2 years in different locations and are for doctors, patients, family and friends to meet and discuss new treatments and findings on the condition. Our other 2 committee members who took me were Louisa and Sarah. I learnt so much more about my condition and met fellow patients from around the world. I realised how fantastic treatment is in Australia and how lucky we are to have blood screening and safe hospital facilities and pretty much free treatment. It saddened me to learn that there are still countries that do not receive the right treatment or any treatment at all, like that photo of the kid you saw who was looking really skinny and underdeveloped. That is still happening in a lot of countries. And this is due to a lack of knowledge and a lack of support from their government. Another thing I learnt from the conference was the only possible cure is a bone marrow transplant. And this is quite unpopular because it has other side effects and can only be done when you're a teenager. Going with Maria, Louisa and Sarah to the conference was an incredible experience, and fellow patients I met there seemed like family. I met many inspiring people that are now lifelong friends. Many of them I have caught up with in Perth, London and even New York. Living with Thal in this generation has its struggles, but it has a positive prognosis of a full and healthy life. This has been an amazing development from the last 40 years, where many of my older Thal friends were told they wouldn't live past their teenage years. The oldest patient in Australia at the moment is about 65, showing that treatment is super successful and improving in all ways. One of the most important things in managing Thal is not only the support of doctors, but having family and friends who really understand what we go through, and they keep us positive and support us during our lifelong treatment. To finish up, I would like to encourage anyone who can to donate blood. I wouldn't be alive without the generosity of donors, and on behalf of all thalassaemia patients, I'd like to thank anyone who has already donated the wonderful gift of life. To reiterate, I have about 18 transfusions per year, requiring 3 bags of whole blood each, meaning I need about 54 donations per year to keep just me healthy. I cannot put into words how special it is that so many people donate already, and it has kept our community alive. I'd really like to thank Amit for inviting me to speak and for choosing to raise awareness for thalassaemia and sickle cell. I hope you've all learned something new, and if anyone has any questions later, I'd be very happy to answer them. Thank you.